watched a segment here discussing the tragic loss of life of a young high school student in Frisco, Texas at a track meet. And watching that newscast, it upsets me because that newscast is full of damn lies. This is a tragic situation where a young man lost his life, yes. But young Carmelo Anthony, in this case, the young man who's been charged with murder, he did not assault anyone in the beginning. He didn't start this fight. The young man approached him with his brother, threatening Carmelo to move out of a spot that was not assigned to anybody. Where Carmelo was sitting, he had a right to be sitting. There was no assigned seating anywhere in the stadium that excluded students from sitting in certain areas. Then when they went to Carmelo, he was threatened by both brothers. And he told them, "Don't put your hands on me." And they threatened to put their hands on him. And he told them, "If you put your hands on me, watch what happens." The white kid, in this case, punched Carmelo in the face. He didn't push him, he punched him in the face. And then that young man defended himself, and unfortunately, a young student lost his life. But Charles, in the state of Texas, you have a right to stand your ground, and if you are the victim of a vicious attack, you can use deadly force if necessary to protect yourself and your life, to stop you from becoming a further victim of an assault or a crime. Why is this young man in jail when he didn't start it? He didn't approach anyone. They approached him. They used profane language toward him. They threatened him and then assaulted him, and he defended himself. Why is he in jail? He's defended himself from a vicious attack and assault. So this young man, in my opinion, should not be in jail. Teach your children. Keep your hands to yourself. That's what needs to be taught here. And to tell this young brother to give up your seat, give me your seat, this ain't no damn Rosa Parks era. You just can't go to a young black man and say, "Give up your seat." He had a right to sit there. And so that brother had his back of the bus moment and refused to give up his seat, and it cost that young white kid his life.
I rarely say this, Quanell. I sometimes internalize it, but shame on you. How absolutely despicable for you to sit here and try to draw this false equivalency between Rosa Parks and this scumbag murderer, right? Shame on you for living a life defined by make-believe racial grievance that you seek a pulpit to lie to people. And let's talk about those lies. Even if you assume everything that is coming out of the Carmelo Anthony camp, even if you assume all of that is true, under the laws of the state of Texas, he is still absolutely guilty of murder, period. Like, you can assume all the fabrications are true. It's still murder, right? You do not have a right to use deadly force in response to a shove or a punch. Now, mind you, all the witness statements are saying it was a shove that was goaded, but let's assume everyone's lying and this murderer is telling the truth. You still can't, because the scenario, what you're advocating for, and pulling Rosa Parks into, is that every time someone walks through a club and someone shoves them or bumps them, you can pull out a knife and stab them in the heart and kill them. And I have no doubt that more is going to come out of Carmelo Anthony, that more evidence. Now, there are rumors that I don't want to regurgitate.
Oh, please do.
No.
Please do.
Let's talk about what has been sold. That you sent me this weekend when we were discussing it. You sent me the statement by the police chief that turned out to be just fabricated. Somebody out there making believe the FBI is now involved, right? And that people are regurgitating all over social media. And it's all driven on racial lines. You are the one that was calling for Daniel Penny to go to prison for life. Now, mind you, we have this new spectacular game in America, right, where we play white man always bad and evil, black man always good, no matter what happens. The truth is, my feelings on this, if it was a white young man who brought a knife to school, went to someone else's tent, started being a jackleg, refused to move out, and then pulled out a knife and jabbed it in someone's heart, I would call him a murderer. And if a white kid did exactly what Carmelo Anthony did to a black kid, you would be out here marching in the streets.
Oh, no, I would not be.
People would be burning your life through your teeth.
George Zimmerman with the Trayvon Martin and put his hands on that kid who was doing nothing wrong. And you same white folks found George Zimmerman not guilty of murder when Trayvon was defending himself. Right here in Texas, You've had many cases where white men have been assaulted by black men. They use deadly force, and they're not charged.
Why are you talking about something else?
You cannot tell me.
Why are you lying about my position, you despicable, shameless liar?
He was assaulted. Liar. That young man was assaulted. He was threatened more than one time. He was asked to move from an area he had a right to sit in. He didn't approach nobody. He didn't threaten nobody. That young man, after being threatened continuously 3 times in a row, was punched in the face. He had a right to defend himself. So don't tell me that this young man can be threatened multiple times and physically punched and assaulted, and he ain't got a right to put his hands in self-defense on the person assaulting him. And he can use whatever force is necessary to stop the attack.
Why do you just
You
lie
brought up Daniel
all the
Penny.
time?
You brought up Daniel Penny.
I did.
Daniel Penny choked a young man to death on the subway. But that young man, he hadn't assaulted anybody. He was making threats, but he physically didn't touch anyone. This case was threats backed up by a physical attack and assault that this young man put on that young black brother. That young black brother had a right to defend himself when he was beyond threatened but viciously attacked.
Well, there's another key difference, right? Mr. Penny, had a guy, a crazy guy, going up and screaming and yelling and threatening to kill people, an unhinged guy that should have probably been in a hospital.
The same thing the white boy did to Carmelo Anthony.
You know, not screaming over you. Let me finish. And Daniel Penny, not using a deadly weapon, restrained him. And I said from the very beginning, there's a real question about where the line was drawn and what he did and if he was alive. Now, the medical examiner came out and they said it turns out that the fellow was still alive when Mr. Penny let him go. But that was a very nuanced situation. But here's a big nuance. I mean, something that you're ignoring is it didn't involve a deadly weapon. But let's talk about examples. So Daniel Penny put up a GoFundMe and it got taken down. Oh, it can't be up, right? The Anthony family, the wonderful Anthony family that raised this murderer, did such a wonderful job, this defender, of liberty, this new Rosa Parks for 2025, as you call them. They put a GoFundMe up for $100,000. It didn't get taken down. The moment, minutes after it got the $100,000, they jacked it up for more money because it's all just a con.
George Zimmerman raised $1 million that was donated to him after killing Trayvon Martin. Kyle Rittenhouse, after he killed 2 people in cold blood, he raised over $1 million. Wait a minute.
Let's
the officer who killed Michael Brown, he raised almost $2 million. So don't tell me that when black folks decide to put money and support behind a young brother who didn't start a fight, who didn't threaten nobody, who was sitting where he could have right to be sitting, was threatened more than one time, was physically attacked, he defends himself, and then all of a sudden he's in jail for murder. But guess what, brother? We gonna stand behind ours like you white folks stand behind yours.
Okay, let me
that
be
young
clear.
Brother was attacked.
I know you're yelling
he defended himself.
Because you really get worked up when you're lying.
Bullshit,
but let me say,
let me say
very clear.
But then it's justified.
Us killing
but when we defend ourselves,
now,
it's murder.
Let's
hell with that.
Firstly, George Zimmerman, absolutely a murderer. The officer that shot Michael Brown, there's evidence that Michael Brown attacked him. The question is, there's also some evidence that he was running away that was refuted. That's a very weird situation. It exemplifies wall cops.
But this young man attacked Carmelo Anthony.
Hold on, Mr. Liar-in-Chief.
No, you're the liar.
No, I'm not going to lie about
Because you white
anything.
folk hate when black folks defend
You brought up
themselves.
George Zimmerman. He was prosecuted. It failed.
And white folks found him not guilty. All white
jury. He was absolutely a murderer, in my opinion. I disagreed with that outcome, just like I disagree with the officer that murdered Tamir Rice, not facing charges.
Found not guilty.
You act like, well, he was never charged.
A grand jury said not guilty. Let him go.
Here's the thing. You act like all white people have this one opinion. What we're only seeing in America right now is the only thing we see is the brazenness of some people. Obviously, it's not everyone that racialize every incident, and they look at it through the prism of race, right? And for you, if you flip-flop the races here, you would be screaming about the entire different thing, and I'd be agreeing with you that was wrong. But you make all of your decisions based on race. Then you lie and scream and talk.
Assessment
no, it's
here.
Not an assessment.
Because there's a white victim in this case.
How
I'm sorry,
Texas law,
he didn't start a fight. He didn't threaten anybody.
Well, actually,
Carmelo Anthony did not threaten anybody.
Very clear.
I've talked to witnesses. I've talked to the family. I've talked to the grandfather.
Which family?
Carmelo Anthony's family.
Exactly.
And I've talked to his family.
You're getting paid.
And gotten
You're
details.
getting paid,
not a penny.
Yeah,
not a penny.
Yet. Here's
guess
the
what?
deal.
I'll say this to you.
Don't say it.
Not only am I not getting paid, I'm sending some of my money to his defense fund.
Okay, hey,
because that young brother
let's talk
deserves
about
an adequate and thorough defense, and I'm donating to it, and I pray others do also.
So if he has such a valid defense, why are there so many lies swirling around in the slurry of social media that first it was that there was past encounters between these brothers and Mr. Anthony, his girlfriend, that they robbed Mr. Anthony, that they attacked him and beat him up, and he was looking at his life was threatened. When none of it occurred, there's very detailed witness accounts that are available.
But there's all kinds of lies going on.
There
are all kinds of lies going on.
Actually, there's not, right?
Now, what about this one?
So I read a
now, this young
I'm
man
not
was
finished.
killed.
You can yell. I
Hold
can
on,
yell
dude.
too. No, you interrupted me.
You opening your mouth to me like that.
Yelling at
Don't
me the
frighten
whole
me.
time.
You white folks are reaping what you sow.
White folks.
You're reaping what you sow.
White folks
You're reaping what you sow.
So what did Austin Metcalf deserve to get murdered in your book?
When he threatened more than once.
Okay.
When he approached
what did he say?
Let me finish.
What did he say?
When he threatened that,
How did he threaten
that if he did not give up his seat, what he was going to do.
What did he say
when
he was going to do?
When he threatened that young man
What did he say?
that if you don't move, I'm going to punch you in your face.
Okay.
2. 3, when he decided that he was going to take his hand, punch that innocent kid in the face who didn't threaten him, who was not breaking any laws, who was not violating no school policies or procedures. When he did that, he crossed the line.
He was violating
and it gave Carmelo Anthony the right to defend himself.
Okay.
Carmelo Anthony was not the instigator. He was not the initial aggressor. The instigator, the threatener, and the initial aggressor, Mr. Metcalf, died. He brought that on himself.
Okay. That's a disgusting take, right? But you said he wasn't breaking any rules. Was it a violation of school policy to come to the track meet armed with a deadly weapon?
So now,
yes or no?
Wait a minute.
Yes or no?
It was that kind of knife.
Yes or no?
It was that kind of knife.
Yes or no?
It was not that kind of knife.
Well, what kind of knife was it?
That's the lie being told.
No.
It was not no butcher knife, no kitchen knife. It wasn't no buck knife. It wasn't that kind of knife.
What kind of knife was it?
See, I'm going to be quiet right now. It's going to come out.
Oh,
those knives that he used were the same ones they used to help put them tents up.
Okay, so he was armed with a knife.
Everybody, a lot of kids had those knives putting those tents up. It's a custom knife that they used to put those tents up. He didn't bring no weapon like that.
Are you allowed to carry a knife at school?
Charles, it was not that type of weapon.
Okay, was it a knife
at
or
all,
not?
Charles. It was something that they used to help erect tents.
Okay, who told you this?
All of them. Let me say this to you, Charles. I'm not going to get too deep into that
I get
point,
that. Had Carmelo been in trouble before for carrying a weapon at school?
I don't know anything about this.
You don't know anything about it. Okay, so we can agree, though, that it is in fact a violation of policy to have a deadly weapon at a track meet. Yes
Charles,
or no? Yes or no? Can we agree to that?
He didn't bring that type of weapon.
Okay.
He did not.
Did he have a weapon hidden in his backpack?
He used a weapon to defend himself,
Did he
Charles.
open up his backpack?
He used a weapon to defend himself.
I dare you to touch me.
No, Charles.
Well, so
he had a right to do that.
Oh, well, really?
He wasn't wrong.
Really?
If you in my face threaten to do bodily harm to me, if you threaten me over and over to do bodily harm to me, and then you punch me in my face,
because
he got a right to use whatever force necessary to stop that attack.
So what you're saying is if it turns out that everyone that was there that gave witness statements that have been published, if they weren't lying and he didn't punch him in the face, right? If they didn't threaten him with physicality, he didn't punch him in his face, do you still think that murder was okay?
I've talked to two students.
Do you still think that murder was okay?
I've talked to two students who were right there, Caucasian students.
Okay.
And they told me, yes, he was punched in the face.
Who were those students?
I'm not going to name them.
Okay, of course you're not.
But those two
because you're
students,
lying to Fox Soul.
No, you are a damn liar.
No, I'm
I
not.
talked to those two students.
You are the same person.
They admitted that he punched that boy in the face after threatening him, Charles.
Okay. You are the same person that sent me this narrative along with a false police chief statement.
That was put out there before the public, yes.
Right? The thing is, you are just regurgitating lies that are all designed that you wouldn't. And my whole problem is not that you're. My whole problem is not.
If he punched him in the face.
My whole problem.
So if he threatened him and punched him, was that self-defense?
No, it's still not a Texas.
So if you threaten that kid over and over and punch him in the face, you can't use no force necessary to stop that attack. So Texas don't have a standing ground law.
Do you want?
Texas don't have a standing ground law.
Not in that context.
Oh,
no.
stop it,
I think
Charles.
you misunderstand it.
No, he got a stand your ground law, Charles, and he stood his ground.
Okay, you're lying.
He stood his ground,
And I don't know for sure, although I know you're a very intelligent man, so I think you're knowingly lying as opposed to just.
No, you just don't like I'm putting the 12 truth in your face.
My real problem with this, it's not not that you're wrong about Texas law. My real problem with this is that this incident has made it glaringly clear that you are willing to take whatever position you have to take, irrespective of the truth, based purely on skin color. And that's repugnant. In Texas, right, so let me educate you about self-defense. He did not have the option to escalate to the use of a deadly weapon and deadly force in response to any sort of just shove, or even if it was a punch, right? You can't pull out a gun and shoot someone that punches you.
So what can you do if you get
now,
punched?
Hold on.
In Texas.
You can punch them back. You can shove them back. No, it's true.
You got a right to stop the aggressor.
No, you don't have
you got
a right to use
stand
deadly
your
force.
ground and stop the aggressor.
So you think that we live in a state where every time someone shoves or punches someone, the other person can pull out a gun or a knife and kill them?
This is what I believe.
Yes or no?
This is what I believe.
No, you're going to lie.
That if
Lie
you
more
go
to the
up to
audience.
someone
Go ahead.
and you threaten them, continuously threaten them, and then you follow up on that threat and physically attack them and assault them, they got a right to use whatever force is necessary to stop the aggressor.
Okay.
That's what I believe, and that's what took place in this case.
So here's a truth for you. If you have to make stuff up to justify what you're arguing, you don't have an argument, right? And the truth is, the scenario, the Texas and America that you're arguing for, and you're only arguing for it because the murderer is black, right? If the murderer was white and the victim was black, you'd be leading marches in the street.
No,
people would be
not.
burning stuff down. But that's a whole different deal. You want an America, and you can't even see the slippery slope. You want an America where every time someone punches somebody on a campus, at an airport, and wherever, if they can get their hands on a deadly weapon, they can open up their bag and say, hey, you better not touch me or else, and then shove a knife in someone's heart or shoot a gun through their chest. That's the America you want.
I want an America to where if you are not a double standard America, not a true system of justice America.
That's all you want.
Not laws for white folks and
want.
black folks. What I want is an America that says, if you go up to somebody who's not doing anything wrong to you, who's not threatening you, and you start threatening them, and then you follow up those threats by physically attacking them, they got a right to use whatever force that is necessary to stop that assault and that aggressor. That's the America that I want.
See, that's
but
not the story
unfortunately,
that's out there.
whenever black people or black men do that to a white person,
Yes,
it's
that's what it is.
justified. Whenever
That's
a white person kill a black person, just thinking they were threatened, it's justified.
So-
You said on this show, and you said Daniel Penny was not guilty. You said on this show and said Daniel Penny should be found not guilty, that it was wrong that he be charged. And the young man that he choked to death did not physically assault Daniel Penny at all. He was threatening somebody else, and Daniel Penny intervened and choked him to death. So how in the hell can you sit here right now and say that a young man who was threatened over and over, as Carmelo Anthony was, and was punched, that he doesn't have a right to defend himself? Because in the other case, Mr. Penny is white, and in this case, in this case, Carmelo Anthony is black.
Actually, it was you that took the opposite position. I took the same position, right? That you have to look at when you have a claim of self-defense, you have to look at the immediate facts and what happened and talk about it, especially one where you have a physical force, a restraint that led to a death. It turned out the testimony during the trial was that and I forget his name, he was still alive when law enforcement got there. So it contravenes the narrative that his death was caused by the chokehold. Now, I don't know. I didn't sit on the jury. And then it comes down to the reasonable use of non-deadly force, right? He was restraining him, and the question was the restrain too much. It's a very nuanced question, and that was my position. You want to make everything black or white because you're alive, but I'm not finished.
Is it a crime to threaten somebody with physical harm?
Again, there is no evidence.
You a lawyer, based on witness testimony, Charles, is it a crime in Texas to threaten somebody with physical harm?
It is.
Yes or no?
It is a class. Let me.
Okay.
I let you go on.
Yes or no, sir?
It is a traffic ticket level.
Okay, now wait a minute. Is it also a crime to physically attack someone who's no threat to you whatsoever?
It is a crime to assault people. It'd be Class C. If
So
there was
did
no
not
pain, there was assault.
So did Mr. Metcalf die in the commission of a crime?
Okay. Again, You don't have a right. See, you don't.
Did he die committing a crime?
Well, I don't know. In
So
fact,
if he physically attacked that kid first,
what the witness statements
that was a
are,
crime.
okay, but the witness statements are that he told him that, in fact, that Carmelo Anthony went into the tent and was harassing people.
Oh,
he asked him to leave,
Charles,
and then
Mr.
there was a
Metcalf
shove.
died
You're
in the commission of committing
Carmelo
a crime.
Anthony is a disgusting murderer.
No,
and you
he's
would
not.
Be
He's
calling him a disgusting
he's
murderer
not.
if he was
is
white.
a
You would
victim
be
of an attack.
marching, burning, and looting
He's the
if he was
victim of an
white.
attack.
You are a liar.